Hi, I'm Brian from Simply Brian Enterprises and welcome to my channel. Today's video we're going to be looking at the homework solution for TopTechBoy's Raspberry Pi class, lesson number 10. Lesson number 10 is a follow-on to last week's lesson number 9. If you remember, we used two push buttons to increase and decrease the brightness of an LED, or in my case, an array of LEDs. But we ran into a little problem in that the brightness is actually exponential, not linear. So we ran into a problem where by doing linear count, 0, 25, 50, 75, 100, we ended up with different brightnesses than we would expect. So let's run through this really quickly. I haven't changed any of the hardware. I'm still running the same hardware solution, and I'm going to start by running last week's lesson, lesson number 9. And I just want to go 1, 2, so you can get an idea of what the brightness is. It's a little tough to see on the camera, but I think I can demonstrate this pretty well. So when I go from 0 to 25 to 50, which is where it is now, you can see the brightness. But when I go to 75, there's only a little change. When I go to 100, there's very little change. You kind of see that. It's, like I said, it's tough to see on camera, but I can certainly see it in person. So I'm going to exit my program again by hitting the down button 3 times. And now let's take a look at the updated version that we're doing more of an exponential increase. So I'm going to hit this twice. And I'm hoping that you can see on camera. I couldn't do a side-by-side, I'm sorry. In the second step, so 0, 25, 50, half brightness is actually half brightness on the LED, as opposed to something that's maybe like more 70%ish bright using a linear progression. So I want to try to demonstrate that as best I can. And again, I apologize. It's hard to see on camera. So let's flip over to the code and kind of see what changes I made to get from lesson 9 to lesson 10. So I had a few ideas of how I could do this, and it became apparent to me that this code here that I was using to increment and decrement the value, it didn't make a lot of sense to try to go back and modify this code to be exponential instead of linear, because I can still use this code since I'm going from 0 to 100 in steps of 25. I can use that as a percentage value, because remember, every time I go through the loop, I'm writing the status again. So instead of worrying about the value here, I can keep this as a percentage of brightness, and I can make my modification when I actually write it out to the LED array. So you can see I've added quite a few lines this week. So the first thing I did, actually I'm going to go up one here. So I came up with another array. So I have LED vals, which I'm going to keep as my percentage array. And now I have LED log outs, or logarithmic outs. That's the actual value we're going to write to the array. Or I should say the array of LEDs, we can say. So we hit the loop, and we're going to go from 0 to 4. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that LED vals. So we're going to take our percentage, divide it by 100 to convert it to a decimal. So 25% divided by 100 is 0.25. Then what we're going to do is we're going to raise 10 to that value. This gives us an exponential increase. And here I've made notes so I don't have to do the math in my head. So 25% ends up being a value of 1.7, or when we extract it out, 17. So if you think of, instead of writing 25, I'm going to write 17. 50%, instead of writing 50, I'm going to write out 31. You can see the steps are now exponential as opposed to linear. So in order to do that, of course, I have to multiply by 10, because when I do a log, or I do a 10 to the raised to a decimal, my highest number is going to be 10. So I'm going to be 0 to 10. Well, I want 0 to 100, so I'm going to multiply by 10 to get from 0 to 100. But then I run into another problem, which is anything raised to 0 is 1. So if I don't correct that, even when I want 0%, my lights are still going to be outputting a value of 10, which is relatively noticeable in an exponential scale. So I want to just do a little correction and say if the value is 10, we really mean 0. Notice that we're not touching the original array, we're keeping that percentage value of 0. We're just saying as we're writing out this array that's going to be written to the LEDs, we're just going to change 10 to 0 so that the lights actually go out. And then we actually populate the array. So this whole for loop here, again, 0 through 4, we're just populating through the array, converting every single value in the LED vals array from percentage to a decimal value um, in the LED log outs array. And then we just go through exactly what we did last time. The only difference is we're writing out the LED log outs array as opposed to the LED vals array. So that was my solution on how to convert this from a linear to an exponential. I know there's a few other ways, but just the way I had the code written, I thought this was the most efficient. So with that, I want to say thank you for watching. If you like the content here on my channel, please like and subscribe below. Like to know who's watching. If you have any thoughts, leave me a comment. I love to read comments from people, and I will catch you next time. Simply Brian Enterprises, I'm Brian. Have a nice day.